on our show.
What we got?
About the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would say that they have been, by far, the most talked about team this offseason, not named the Dallas Cowboys, of course. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
I think Shador has been talked about more than the Browns specifically.
But the Shador drama literally just started right after the draft. So
Right.
you're talking about late April, early May.
Right.
We've been talking about the Steelers' quarterback woes for...
Since the end of the season.
Exactly.
So the Steelers offseason conversation has included names. Jerry's gonna love this. Jerry Jones. Look at the protagonists and antagonists you have in this drama. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford. Because we talked about the idea of would they be in on the trade for him? Shador Sanders. You were adamant, especially as the draft went on. What are you doing? Take this young man. Mike Tomlin, right? T.J. Watt.
Now Cam
Hayward. That's 9 different. Jalen Ramsey. 10 different protagonists or antagonists within the Steelers drama this offseason. And that led us to the conversation as to which of the 2 biggest characters within the Pittsburgh Steelers is facing the most pressure heading into the season, Mike Tomlin or Aaron Rodgers. And interestingly enough, both you and Pat Costello, producer here on Unsportsmanlike, both believe Aaron Rodgers is heading into a freebie season, a nothing-to-lose season, but for different reasons. CC, I'm gonna make an executive judgment here. I'm gonna go with you first and then Pat on this in terms of who to have more airtime. I'm gonna go with you over Pat. Pat's making a lot of appearances these days, but I think we should go with you first.
Okay, well, here's my logic behind why Aaron Rodgers has a free role this year. Because if Aaron Rodgers plays poorly, then Mike Tomlin was complicit in the organization developing a quarterback plan this offseason to prioritize Aaron Rodgers. We also know that Mike Tomlin's handling of Justin Fields being benched during the course of last season was a part of the impetus for Justin Fields to spurn them in free agency and sign with the New York Jets. Mike Tomlin decided to make that decision for Russell Wilson, who lost 5 straight games to end their 2024 campaign, including getting waxed by a division rival in the Baltimore Ravens. So when it comes to the quarterback position in Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin's fingerprints are all over it. So if Aaron Rodgers plays poorly, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is going to get some fault, but the lion's share of the blame will go to the guy that was buying the groceries, and that was Mike Tomlin.
Follow up on this. Your assumption based on the last 3 years is Aaron Rodgers is not going to be the Aaron Rodgers we're used to seeing. So if he's the same guy that we've seen the last 3 years...
You mean the guy that we're used to seeing last year with the Green Bay Packers and the 2 years with the New York Jets?
Correct. If he's that guy, your point is not even to go after him. It's that's what he is at this point in his career, and that's what every quarterback not named Tom Brady is at this point in their career. Why did you think it was going to be different? So in many ways, you have been critical of Rodgers. I've been critical of Rodgers. What you're saying is actually a defense of Rodgers. Don't ask him to be something he's not, and don't expect him to be something no one is outside of Tom Brady.
But not just that, though, Evan. The guy just got there in June. It wasn't as if he was in the Steelers offseason program and they were building toward this the entire spring. He just got there in June. And he's going to be a 42-year-old quarterback this upcoming season. Why would you think you're going to get a better version of him this year than when he spent all of last year participating in the Jets offseason program, save the 2 minicamp dates when he decided to go to Egypt? Why would you think you're getting a better version of him this year? That doesn't make any sense. Mike Tomlin has been in the NFL long enough to know better. And that's why I say if this thing goes off the rails in Pittsburgh, which I think there's a pretty strong chance that it does, then the onus is on Mike Tomlin. All of the blame goes toward him.
Mm-hmm. That's a free ride.
It's a free roll for Aaron Rodgers.
Pat, you believe it's a free roll for Rodgers too, but for a different reason. Go ahead.
I mean, not all that different. I agree completely with the negative part of it, where, like, if this goes bad, we don't expect Rodgers to be good anyway. So, like, okay, it's just on Mike Tomlin at that point. If it goes well, unless Rodgers somehow turns back the clock to, like, MVP Rodgers, which nobody's expecting. If it goes well and it looks kind of like it did last year with Russell Wilson, we're just going to go Mike Tomlin does it again. It's another great Mike Tomlin year where he gets him into the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers is never getting the credit for this unless somehow he has a miracle season.
I guess my question is, Pat, what's the pathway to the Pittsburgh Steelers getting to the playoffs, winning a playoff game without Rodgers playing well?
They can't, but that's why I'm saying, like,
okay.
Even if it's Russell Wilson, right? If it's exactly the same as last year, but with Aaron Rodgers, then we're just giving Mike Tomlin all the credit.
So wait,
but it does. But you know what though, Pat, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, but what it does do for Aaron Rodgers is it takes a little bit of the sting off of the New York Jets stint, right? All of a sudden now, what happened at the Jets doesn't seem like it was all Aaron Rodgers' fault. Even though, from our perspective, he's the one that detonated the franchise that had a lot of promising young talent.
So let's just use the numbers from last year. The Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback room had 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Okay?
You're including the rushing touchdowns?
No, I'm not.
You should rope in the rushing touchdowns.
Okay, so you want to do total touchdowns?
Yeah, I think it's actually exactly the same.
So it's 26.
They had 20, I think 28. They had 28 total touchdowns, and Aaron Rodgers had 28 passing touchdowns.
Okay, so let's run it back. 28 touchdowns, 10 wins, playoff loss. We say what about Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I think we say that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
That's definitive, and that what happened with the New York Jets wasn't all his fault. It was a combination of poor coaching, poor ownership, not having the infrastructure in place to get the most out of your people, not having any direction or leadership within the franchise other than his own. I like where we're going with this. So we play this out. 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 10 wins, and a playoff loss. Okay, we're going to do this for both guys. So the Aaron Rodgers part is interesting. You just said, hey, maybe the full-fledged Jet stuff is not always on him. I do wonder what we then say about the end with Green Bay. Because he would finish, not necessarily on a high note, but certainly not on a low note. If this was his last year...
Hold on. But that's the other part that we have to drill down on, too. If he has that kind of season, there's no guarantee that this is going to be his last year.
That's right. But let's say it is, just for argument's sake.
Okay.
Because let's say he realizes, I got some of it left. I don't have all of it left. This was fine. I can leave this way. Because I think we forget sometimes the kind of competitor he must be because of all the other stuff, right, that he talks about. He can't like what happened with the Jets.
No.
So he can love what happened in many ways with the Packers. He can't like what happened with the Jets. So with the 28-6, 10 wins, first-round playoff loss, he probably sits there and says, let me not risk it. This is fine. I can walk out this way. The Jets are the abnormal part of my career. The Packers, greatness. The Steelers, good. Fine. Average. I leave. I do whatever I want. No big deal. How do we then look back at how he handled the exit with Green Bay? Because I wonder in that scenario whether there's ever a real moment, and with McAfee or anywhere else, where he says, I wish me now approach things that way at the end in Green Bay, and I had a different thought process, and I found a way of extending that time there because that was the organization I was made to play for.
I understand how you're trying to present the hindsight argument in terms of how he handled things, but I think the difference in what we're seeing from Aaron Rodgers now is a reflection of the leverage that he has with the current version of himself versus the leverage that he had with the MVP version of himself. You get a lot more rope when you have a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. You get a lot more rope when you're winning 12, 13, 14 games a season.
In a 16-game season.
Exactly. That's not who he is anymore.
Right.
So him handling things differently shouldn't be a shock or a surprise, or us acknowledging that there is some maturation happening in him. I think it's just an acknowledgement of, I'm not the same player that I used to be. And if that's the case, why the hell would you sign up for that if you're Mike Tomlin?
Yeah. The other part of it, let's go to the Tomlin part of it, right? So we're playing out. They win 10 games. Rodgers has 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. They lose a playoff game again, first round. That would be, 7 straight years without a playoff win?
Correct.
Mike Tomlin then says what?
I don't know if it's Mike Tomlin saying something as much as it is the organization deciding that there needs to be a mutual parting of ways. Because the Pittsburgh Steelers, usually at that 20-year mark for their head coaches, plus or minus a couple of years, they're looking to pivot to a new voice.
So that's
the pattern that we've seen over the last half century.
They don't consider the rebuild though in that spot. They don't consider. Let's let Tomlin walk us through this.
If there's a new head coach, then I'm assuming that there's going to be a new quarterback that they invest a premium pick in.
But they wouldn't do it with him, is what I'm asking.
No, I don't think the reset starts with Mike Tomlin.
It starts with everything.
It feels like this is a last dance, not just for Aaron Rodgers, but for Mike T in Pittsburgh as well.
It's fascinating.
You know, we talk about how hard it is to move on from legendary quarterbacks. It's equally as hard to move on from legendary coaches, and you being a Patriots fan knows that all too well.
I may only have 1 year, though. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, you may
and
only,
the Steelers had no years.
You may only have 1 year because the organization understood that it was time. When you let that thing drag out longer than it should,
understood. Yep.
It's going to get worse. And you have to wonder whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to handle Mike Tomlin that way.